Well, hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing this fine day? I'm good, even though the Steelers lost, but I think we'll all get over that. Not the end of the world. They're 3-1. Division's heating up, though. Ravens looking good. We'll get to that here in a minute. But let's go over our usual Tuesday snap counts, things of that nature, advanced observations. I don't know why that word wouldn't come out of my mouth. But Richardson only lasted 13 snaps in this game. And we can obviously have a conversation, for better or worse for the Colts situation. But I thought he was playing well in those 13 snaps, but it would have been a much different game. Anyway, of a possible 70 snaps, Frazier, McCormick, Fields, Jones, and Moore all played 70. Spencer Anderson played 64. Pickens and Jefferson both played 60, a high percentage. Freiermuth up to 53. Najee 48, which is probably too many, but Washington at 40, and I want to see more of him. Austin at 39. Then we get down to Connor Hayward, 18. Shampklin at 13. Cordarrelle only lasted 9. It would have been nice to see more of him. Miller played 9, Scott Miller. And James Daniels only lasted 6 snaps. Ryan McCullum had to come in for a snap, too. I assume that was a 6th offensive lineman, but I'll have to double check that. On defense, we've got 66 snaps which is all, for Minka, Queen, Porter. Not uncommon. Dante Jackson missed 1 snap. Watt only missed 4. He played 62, to high percentage. Elliott played 56, 48 for Cam and Herbig. Ogunjobi with 46. As same with Beanie Bishop, also 46. 37 for Peyton Wilson. 28 for Benton. I would have liked to seen him out there more, but I think they wanted the Steelers to be in their nickel a lot. Leal, 22. Roberts, 21. Adams, 17. KZ, 11. Edmonds, 8. It was nice to see him out there. Not a lot, but he got a hat. Dean Lowry at 8. Loudermilk at 5. I think they got a lot out of those depth D linemen, to be honest, in this game. Adams, Lowry, Loudermilk. They weren't super helpful in this particular one against a really good offensive line. But that being said, I do think that there's not a ton to glean from these snap counts. But we'll see. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the NFL to college, BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to Online Casino and get in on the game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE, all caps, BLEAV, and get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. As we usually do, there are some observations, things to discuss. Jonathan Taylor and Richardson combined to rush for 70 yards in the first quarter. 11 carries between the two of them. 70 yards on 11 first quarter carries, averaging 6.4 yards per attempt. And a lot of it was right up the middle versus nickel, as I mentioned. They didn't want that Wisconsin Bortolini center at Benton nose. And they were getting Bortolini and those interior linemen straight at Patrick Queen. And I didn't think he handled it well. He is not a very good take-on player. He's a run-and-hit player. But anyways, those 70 yards on 11 first quarter carries were problematic, to say the least. But the rest of the game, 63 rushing yards. I know Richardson wasn't in there and there's a different threat, but Taylor's a great back behind really good run blocking. The beginning was terrible. The beginning was terrible on both sides of the ball. But after that, it was much different. I mean, and I think that's notable. EPA per play. I know some of you don't want to hear about EPA. It's expected points added. But In the early downs, both these offenses were really, really similar. And I think it's a really good judge of how effective teams are on a play-by-play nature. But on third and fourth downs, on average, this is how EPA works. The Colts created 0.36 points, scoreboard points. A field goal's worth 3. So, 0.3 points per play on third and fourth down, where the Steelers were negative 0.27 points per play on third and fourth downs on offense. It's a big gap. And in a way, that's a big spot where the game was won. That's how good Flacco was on third down. That's how good the Colts were in money downs. That stuff absolutely matters. I do think it's notable too. We often talk about the hidden yardage and turnovers and missed field goals, things of that nature. But the Steelers did have a massive special teams advantage in terms of field goals and punt returns in this game. Austin's punt returns a big deal. Fields is now 3-1 as a starter. He's got a 71% completion percentage. Really, really good. But one thing that was a step backwards for me in this game was he had a 3.19 time to throw in just this game. And that's back to being too high. He was getting it down. The ball was coming out quicker. But in this game, I thought he regressed in that neighborhood. 3.2 seconds is a long time to be holding the ball, especially when you only have a 7.3 air yards per attempt. So he's holding the ball long and throwing it only 7.3 yards down the field on average. So that part doesn't add up in a great manner. But as we talked about a lot last week, he has been basically the most blitzed quarterback in the league since he's entered the league. However, the Colts took a different route and only blitzed him on 14% of his dropbacks after he ripped the blitz apart against the Chargers. I kind of took that as a respect factor, that we're just they're not a huge blitz team anyway, but maybe he's getting it and we're not going to go down that road. But I'm sure he expected to get more blitz than that. Keep going back to this, and I know it's something we've talked about for 6 months, but I thought being short a number 2 wide receiver was big, especially when you're in catch-up mode and you got to play a little bit different style. And I'm not saying it has to be Ayuk or Devontae Adams or, people have actually thrown Christian Kirk's name my way. I'd be interested in that. But Roman Wilson maybe get a bump. But I do think the lack of a number 2 receiver is starting to show up. Wasn't a great O-line day overall, run blocking or pass protection. But the more I watched it a second time, I thought it was a little better than I thought. I would not blame Dan Moore for the problems, and I would not blame Zach Frazier for the problems. Those two were pretty good. Jones was decent. He still has some inconsistencies and can be a little too up and down, but I didn't think he was bad. The guard play was pretty poor. The guard play overall was below the line. And hey, you lost James Daniels and you didn't have Siamalu. I think that's explainable. Grover Stewart, their defensive tackle, is a good player that doesn't get a lot of respect, but he kind of feasted on the interior, especially the guards. Someone else brought this up to me, and I just want to throw it out there. I'm not sure Connor Hayward brings quite enough to the table on offense. He's a core special teamer. He's not going anywhere, and that's not just because of his last name. But yes, he can be a fullback. Yes, he could get you out of game as a running back. Yes, he can do tight end things and movement stuff and is a lot different than Darnell Washington. But do we know that he's good enough at any of them to really be an asset on offense? I used to think of him as a really sharp route runner, good after the catch, potential mismatch type guy in the passing game. May have overestimated him. I just wanted to present that for the first time. Boy, Downs and Pittman were outstanding in this game. And they're two of my favorites I think have been very underrated. Downs has been hurt. Their quarterback play has hindered them both quite a bit. But man, did Flacco live on the edge in this one. And I told you before, I helped recruit Joe way back when from Audubon High School back to Pitt, and kind of always rooted for him since. And I look at this last 2 years with the Colts and now the Browns, where he was on his couch when the Browns called him. And when he played quarterback for the Browns last year, it was like he didn't care at all. I'm going to throw anything I want. I'll risk it. If my career ends, I'll just go back to the couch with my millions, and had a great career. And that's how I felt like he played with the Colts too. Like, he truly lived on the edge. And what I mean by that is I heard a stat today. I can't 100% confirm it, but it's next generation stats from NFL.com that I guess they track what percentage of quarterbacks' completions to what they deemed open receivers. You know, like what percentage are contested catches, tight window throws, and his percentage of completions to tight windows, contested catches was the highest in the league this week. So yeah, the coverage is great, but I'm going to throw it anyway. What do I have to lose? And he put it right on the money to good receivers. I'm not making excuses for Porter and the other Steeler covers guys. But in this league, when that happens, there isn't much you can do about it. There really isn't. Cam and Watt were better and more impactful and garnered more attention than I originally thought watching the original tape. So no worries on those guys whatsoever, of course. But I do think it's noteworthy that Cam showed up more than Watt, but they played good games. They really did. Elliott, he stands out every game. I think he's been a really good acquisition. I thought he had a really good game top to bottom. He ran down and got that fumble out, and Steelers couldn't recover it. But he's a very useful defensive piece. I mentioned how Queen does not take on blocks well, and we've kind of hinted around or flat out said he has not been a success story as a Steeler during the regular season. I thought his game against the Chargers was his best to date, but I'm a little worried. I'm a little less worried about Porter, but that's 2 weeks in a row where he had a coverage gaffe or a miscommunication, and there were plays there for him to make that he didn't. I'm not saying Queen and Porter stink, bench them, cut them, they're horrible, but let's just open up our eyes to maybe they're not perfect. Could more Peyton Wilson be in the cards if this keeps up? If it's a month from now? Again, just preliminary thoughts. This is how coaches think. Like, he's struggling a little bit. This is the beginning. Can we get him out of it? Is this who he is? Or do we have another answer? Not the best day for the punter, Waitman. I don't think any of us thought he's going to be Ray Guy. But I do think a lot of us thought, well, this is a nice find. And maybe he will be, but in a dome, he was not so great. How about this? This is something I've been saying on the air a bunch today, Monday. Now, the Steelers' offense from the last 5 years or so has been bad. You know, the Matt Canada era, end of Ben, Duck, etc., Pickett. But could the offense from that era, the last 5 years, even made that a game? I mean, even competed if they were down 17 right off the bat, had really no running game to lean on. They were losing the turnover battle by 2, gave them 2 fourth downs possessions. No. Those offenses from yesteryear would have lost by 40 in that situation to any NFL team. That's where the optimism comes from to me, is maybe you don't have to be perfect and be plus in the turnover differential anymore to still be in a game or win a game. Like, a lot of bad things happened, and this offense came back and really made this a game. Look at it that way a little bit. All right, a couple of things here. As I'm sure you could figure out, the Steelers have already played 3 of their 9 road games this year. So that means they have 7 home games and 6 road games remaining. It's nice to get those things out of the way and you have a winning record. It's tough to win on the road. Sure looks like James Daniels is out for the year. It's brutal. By no means is that comforting. These cluster of injuries at any position are a GM's worst nightmare. But offensive line is way harder to replace than like what they did last year when they didn't have any linebackers and safeties. You can at least get linebackers and safeties off the waiver wire that have played that are not great, of course, but you can't get linemen. And I do think Ciamalo will be back for this game. And Cook also could come in off injured reserve. That's big. They need a tackle. And I think he's okay. He's an NFL player. But it's gotten to the point now with the Daniels injury that I don't know that they can afford another one, and that's a long stretch to go from now until the time they're eliminated to not have a substantial offensive line injury. And that could derail the season. I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but that could derail the season. Who knows? But it worries me quite a bit. All right, everyone. This was fun as usual, and I will be back tomorrow. See you.